So after making the last couple of videos, I decided I should go over more what you're seeing when you actually see my screen. I had a concern that it wasn't clear enough and nobody really understood what they were looking at, those that saw the video. Um, but I've done a couple things to help remedy that. So the first thing is I have increased the font size. So as you can see, pretty big font. For right now, we don't need that much space because we won't be writing that many lines of code. So yeah, 14 lines is plenty to fit on here, just for the tutorials at least. For the projects, I'll slim that down more, but for right now, this is what we'll have. So this right here is actually where we write the program. So when you see me write print hello world, that's the program. That's where we're writing it. You know, we could do all kinds of things, just like I talked about yesterday. We can make variables, anything you want. So that's what this piece is for. And then up here, it's funny, I was just gonna make a list video on lists in Python, but I decided I'd make this one instead. So I had a file called listoverview.py. So this is the file name and the one that's open. If I had more files open, let me make a new file. We'll call it test.txt. You can see we have another file here. We can switch between them. They obviously each have their own contents. This one has 3 S's, this one has 2 S's, just as an example. So that's what this up here is. This basically shows your open files. And this is for Atom. Again, I'm using Atom. This is the text editor I like to use. So this is where we actually write the program again. And then over here, this is what's called a tree view. So I will actually hide this for future tutorial videos. This is more if you're working with multiple programs, or rather multiple different files. So when you write more extensive programs, you want to have 3 different files, for example, or even more, or sometimes less. So we'll get into that more in the future, but this basically is looking at a folder in my Explorer, and let me show that real quick. I'll just pop that up with the power of editing. All right, so here I am one layer above the lists folder. So you can see lists here. If I click on that, you can see inside of it, we have listoverview.py. So this is basically a mini file explorer. You can see here, this is how I get to my different documents. Again, I'm using Fedora Linux, which a lot of you probably won't be familiar with, but this is just like Finder on Mac or like Explorer on Windows. So again, this is how you view your files, and this is basically a smaller version of that, so that you don't have to have 2 windows open while you're programming. You can just stick to one. So let me get this out of the way, and then I'll show you this piece. In my last videos, I had a more complicated prompt for my terminal, and I wanted to change that because I think there was a lot of confusion there. So here I changed it to just a $sign. So this is a regular terminal. In Linux, it's called a console, a terminal. In Windows, it's a command prompt, PowerShell. There's 2 different ones there. And then in Mac OS, you have just the terminal. So this is how you actually run programs. So in programming, before you actually create official launchers, you start with running your programs from a terminal. That's because they don't have a launcher yet. So for example, when I write a simple program like we've been doing, saying so, oops, that's not how you spell print, saying something like print hello world, and then when we run that, Python, the name of the file, listoverview.py. So this is the command I'm executing. That's what that is. So the $sign is the prompt that says anything after this is the command. So I'm telling the computer, run the command python3, and then Python3 will take the argument of the file name. So you give the file name, and then it'll know, oh, I have to run that. So then when I press enter, it'll execute it, and after that is the actual output of the program that you wrote. So in this case, it says hello world. Again, like I said previously, we can change that to anything. In my first video, I gave a bunch of cues, and that works fine as well. If we run it again, it gives a bunch of cues. So that's the output of the file. I basically go on a long tangent here about different IDEs and why I like Atom. So I decided I'd just cut that out because I'm going to make a video on that in the future, so it's just not really necessary. But let me just jump back to where I was. So again, this is the text editor. This is where you actually write the programs. These are the files within the folder that are added to the project. Up here, you have the different opened files. In this case, I only have one opened. Again, this is the IDE. Down here, Atom. And then over here, I have my terminal window, which is where I run the programs. So one more time, if I run this, hello world, this up here is the command after the $sign, and this is the output of the program. This is what the program is telling us, right? Okay, so I hope that cleared some stuff up. I want to try and make some more informative things like this so I don't confuse anybody, and hopefully this helped. Please let me know if you have any questions. I will try and come out with the list video by the end of the day, but I will not hold myself to that. So I look forward to seeing you again. Thanks for watching, and be safe.